Parierigo. Good evening, everyone. I have a special program tonight. We are going to speak about our district, our cities. Why is it drug infested? Why is it gang infested? Why is it homeless infested? And what do we need to do? The answer is one. We all have a voice to vote and change the system, change the candidate that has brought this district into chaos and slums, basically. We all have a duty to do for our future generations, for our kids, for our country, especially for all the immigrants that came here. We all had a dream to better life. But within these districts, under Democrat candidate, unfortunately, we're seeing the destruction of our dreams. Our kids have been going into drug-infested high schools, public schools, and we're seeing all the homelessness around us, poverty, joblessness, hopelessness. That's not what America is all about. That was not our founding fathers. That was not their dream. And we need to act very fast this coming election to change the district Congress, especially on the 28th District Congress. Well, I have the next candidate who will become and who will make the change in our district, which is District 28, Eric Early. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Pedros. That was an incredible introduction, by the way. It was very moving for me, and I agree with everything you just said.
Thank you. And we need to change the system that is under people, that has been under people that care less about the people that live in this district.
You know, both of my parents were legal immigrants to this country.
Right.
My dad came from Vienna, Austria. My mom came from Poland. They escaped for a better life. Well, it was their parents that escaped and brought them when they were young kids for a better life in this country. And they instilled in me a great love of America. And you know, one of the reasons I got in this race is because I believe, Bedros, that in America right now, we're in a battle of good versus evil. You know, as I know so many of your viewers know, as my parents know, socialism and communism is inherently evil, and this is what we're seeing, this underlying takeover. Now it's not even underlying anymore. They're trying to take over our country, and we know the destruction that would do, and we see all of the things that are happening in our country because of these ridiculous policies that these people that I'm very much against have been bringing on us for so many years now.
Their mission is to take our souls, our livelihood into their control and make a big government and control us.
That's exactly right. You know, as I was driving here, I was listening on the radio to the Mark Levin show on AM radio, and some maniac called in on the radio. He says he supports, the guy who called in said he supports Bernie Sanders. He said he doesn't know why, he doesn't even think he needs to work anymore. He doesn't understand why he should work, this caller that called in. You know, I'm a huge believer in the value of hard work. Everything good comes from hard work. I believe in good old-fashioned hard work. Nothing I got in my life came without working hard. And this new regime that's trying to take over this country believes just the opposite. And my opponent, Adam Schiff, has never said a word about it. He just goes along and gets along with the whole thing. He's got to be sent packing. We have to get back this country. You know, I'm a big supporter of President Trump because in this day and age, we need fighters to fight this evil that is coming at us from all sides.
Well, of course, we're all in support of President Trump. Yeah. Unfortunately, our Armenian community has been infested with Democrats by the lies of Democrats, unfortunately. And I've been talking about it for the longest time. Democrats are taking us into ghetto-style lives. Basically, our communities have become ghetto, let's put it this way.
Yeah, well...
people have been depending on the government. They don't have individual freedom. And this is what's happening, because when you depend on the government and you don't work, you become homeless. You become in drugs, hopelessness. And that's what's been taking. Our founding fathers didn't escape from countries for this. They didn't want a big government. That's why they came here. They wanted freedom.
Yeah, one of the great things about our nation, and I believe America is the greatest nation that God ever created, and I believe in American exceptionalism, and I believe America is the shining city on the hill. And one of the great things about our system is that it enables people to dream. You said the American dream. The American dream was to come here and you work hard and you give your kids a better life and you give yourself a better life, right. and anything is possible for your children and your grandchildren. You could go from having nothing today and in a generation or two generation, you know, your grandchildren could be the Bill Gates of the world, and this socialism, this communism that is coming in to try and take over our country right now, it kills dreams, it kills religion, it kills faith, it kills our hopes for our future, and we've got to stop it, especially in this country, which is the shining light for the rest of the world. God forbid that light goes off in this country. So one of the main reasons I ran, and I'm running against this guy, Adam Schiff, who, you know, he's a smooth talker, he's a complete liar. He doesn't have convictions like I have these convictions that you're hearing, like the convictions that you have. He does whatever it takes to stay in power. And in this day and age, he determined that is to try and destroy a duly elected president. He seems to think like the last 18, 20 years, he's just going to skate back into office again. The mainstream media, you know, they think the same thing for him. And I got another thing coming for him. He's never run into anything like me. So
I believe that, but
yeah.
I want to ask you a question. You're a successful businessman. You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
You own your own law firm, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
I own a law firm of 30 lawyers.
What gave you the energy to leave your business? Obviously, you have to have a dream. You have to have a vision. You have to have care for people. When you drive, you see people being destructive.
Let me tell you something, Bedros. That's a great question.
Right. I mean, you're you're living your livelihood as a business person, going into war.
Yeah,
that's what it is. You're going against great deception of communism that is within the Democrat Party.
That's right. It is a war, and I am going into war. You know, just a little bit more about my background. So my dad got here at 17 years old. My grandparents signed for him. He enlisted in the Marines. They sent him over to North Korea, and he was in combat in North Korea. He got a Purple Heart. So, you know, he was a fighter, and that sort of rubs off on you. You know, I have a very blessed life. I started a law firm 10 years ago with 4 other partners of mine. We're up to 30 lawyers. I'm the managing partner of the law firm since day one. I sign the front of a lot of checks. We practice in courts all around the country. We're going to war constantly for our clients. We do business litigation, real estate litigation, entertainment litigation. I came from one of the most prominent law firms in the state. My mentor, Terry Christensen, at my last law firm, was Kirk Kerkorian's consigliere for 4 decades. And Terry's my mentor, and I actually represented Kirk with Terry when we sued, when Trescinda Corporation sued Daimler Chrysler for Kirk. And, you know, so this is my background. I'm used to fighting and going against people. I got a great family, 2 grown kids. My fiance, who's a Navy brat, has a great kid. And, you know, so why did I get in? These evil forces that are trying to take over our country. We can't let it happen. Good people have to step up and be ready to fight for this country. And then I see this guy, Adam Schiff, who has not done anything for this district in 20 years. He's abandoned us to go off to Washington to seek his version of fame. And the stuff he's been saying about President Trump for 3 years, first is Russia hoax stuff, where Schiff came on TV every day and lied to all of us about how the president colluded with the Russians to get elected. It was ridiculous. Then this whole impeachment thing, ridiculous. And, you know, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't sit back and watch this guy lie to all of us while our district is crumbling and while these evil forces are trying to make their way into our country and take over. And, you know, that's why I got involved. When you talk about homelessness, for example, Schiff has not done a damn thing about homelessness in 20 years. And he's heard me talking about this, and now all of a sudden, the other day, he claims, he said yesterday on TV on something that I was on, he said, Well, he's been working on homelessness for 20 years. Now, let's assume that's true. And by the way, I don't assume anything Adam Schiff says is true. I believe he's completely full of it. But, sir, Mr. Schiff, if you've been working on it for 20 years, you're a complete failure. Because look at what's going on out on the streets. People are living and dying on our streets. It's just growing by leaps and bounds. It's a health crisis. It's a law enforcement and safety crisis. It's bad for our people living here, our law-abiding citizens who have to deal with this stuff. It's bad for our businesses where they're, living in front of our businesses. And so, I've already said, I've come out publicly and said, forget about what the Democrats have said about homelessness there, where you have to be compassionate to people and let them live on the streets. I don't believe it's compassionate to let somebody live and die on a street. We have to, and there's ways to do it. I'm looking at other states in the country, how they're doing it, notwithstanding this law that now says people have a right to live on the street. It's just crazy law.
Justifying the hopelessness.
It's just crazy.
Justifying people that gave up on life.
It's exactly.
Right. Instead of encouraging them.
These people have, right. they have the right to live on the street. There's ways to work around that legally, and I think we have to get these people off the streets immediately. I'm a big supporter of law enforcement. We have to take these shackles off law enforcement because they're being prevented from doing so. We've got to let them do what it takes to get these people off the streets immediately. Even if it's against these people's will, we have to find vacant state and vacant federal property outside of our city where we can put these people and start dealing with their mental illness, their drug abuse, all of these major problems. I also believe that, and this will be a longer term project, of course, we need to build America's mental health care system from the ground up. It's virtually non-existent now. So these are some of the reasons I got in. Bedros, I'll talk to you about another issue that's near and dear to my heart, which is this underlying takeover of our children's schools, where these people are coming in, unbeknownst to many of the parents, it's like under our noses, and they are brainwashing our kids with some of the most anti-American, anti-religion, sexually crazy stuff.
Of course.
And to me, it's one of the biggest threats to our nation. I've got 2 grown kids. I'm an empty nester now. I've got a grandson. And, I want to protect our kids. And in fact, I'm leading a lawsuit now up in Santa Barbara, California. I represent a group called Fair Education Santa Barbara. It's made up of about 300 great citizens up there. We're suing the Santa Barbara Unified School District and one of these outfits that I call these social justice warriors that are going in there. If you saw their materials, it will blow your mind.
I understand.
I've
been following it.
Okay. And they're indoctrinating our kids' brains.
Exactly, the word is indoctrination.
Yes. Teaching critical thinking, teaching, the basics, to help kids with a good life and how to get a good foundation for life. That stuff's going out the window. They're indoctrinating our kids with this terrible stuff. And what I say to people is, you want to know where our AOCs come from? You want to know where these crazed socialists are coming from, socio-communists are coming from? Send your kids through the schools these days. Starting in elementary school all the way through college, this is how they're being indoctrinated.
Cultural Marxism.
Cultural Marxism. So, big issue for me.
Right.
When I get to Washington, all these schools get tons and tons of federal taxpayer money. I want to hold it. I want to say to them, listen, you want that money, school district over here? You got to stop bringing these people, indoctrinating our kids into school. Big issue for me. I talk about it all over the place. Parents all over, regardless of their political persuasion, agree with me on this. And, so I care about our kids deeply, and we've got to stop this from happening.
We have to stop it at once because this is not only destroying the elderly, those that are working already. This is destruction of our future complete generation.
Exactly.
The infrastructure of the family is being destroyed.
Exactly.
And soon they're going to come out with legislations if this continues, which I know it's not going to continue because there are people like you who will fight it. If it continues, for a parent, it's going to be illegal and punishable if they teach their children family values,
This is where it's
Christian
going.
values.
This is
where it's going to destroy the family. And this is evil as it is. This is complete satanic, I can say that.
You know, I agree with you.
Right.
And that's an example of how this almost satanic stuff is infiltrating our culture. Another example, when good people are being looked at as the evil people,
Right.
and evil people are being looked at as the good people, you know that there's this almost satanic forces at work, and
Right.
we have to fight them and get them out of this great country.
They have to not only get out. You see, when we study history, every time we look at history, when there is poverty, when there is homelessness, we can really research deep in the hearts of these people that were created by God. They became street person, they became homeless because hopelessness. Nobody gave them hope.
Yeah.
And when a big government keeps continuing indoctrinating their brains, they don't want freedom. They become numb to society. They become numb to the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And they don't see, and they don't even understand what they want. So
Yeah.
they think that's life. They have to live on the street.
Well,
On the top of it, when children go to school and they come up with this illiterate, I will put it, terminology, ADHD and etc., and they label people with mental sicknesses,
Yep.
and they start giving them drugs, that person in the future becomes drug addict
Yep.
and starts using methamphetamine and heroin, depending what kind of psycho medications they gave him. Because as I see, society doesn't have hope, and government doesn't have the solution. It's Christ that has the solution. And they're basically objecting the solution. Right now, in prison, it's allowed to preach the Bible, to rehabilitate people. In schools, it's punishable by crime.
You know, that's a really interesting point, what you said there.
In the schools, we have to allow
Yep.
the word of Christ.
Yep.
That is the only hope
Well, you
for
see,
humanity.
You see, Bedros, the way communist Russia worked.
Right.
You're not allowed to have any religious beliefs.
Right.
The state took over everything. We've seen throughout history, communism and socialism, tens of millions of people have been killed. People lose all their freedom. They lose all their hope. They are victims of a state. You have a government running everything. We can never become that. We must always be the shining city on a hill, where people in those kind of societies can look to America as the place to escape to live their dreams. Because without America, who's going to fill in the gap? These crazy mullahs in Iran, the Chinese who want to run every part of your life, the Russians. I mean, we've got to protect this nation, and you know, so it seriously concerns me when you see like these Bernie Sanders of the world getting this power. It's bad. So you know, these are the reasons. Let me give you another example of some of this crazy school stuff. We have a state senator, Republican state senator up in Sacramento, and our state is totally run by these far-left Democrats. Another reason why I'm in politics now, I'm not a politician, but why I got involved, because we got to take back this state, rebuild it from the ground up. It's got so many problems. You're talking about crime, which I talked to you about, for example. But we have a state senator up there. He tried to pass a bill up there that said that parents should have the right to sign a consent form if their young kids, as young as elementary school age, have to go to these crazy health education classes now, where they're teaching kids things like there are 52 different genders. They're
Right.
teaching kids outrageous stuff. So he tried to get what would be a normal, common sense thing. Let the parent provide consent if they want their young child to be able to go to that class. That bill did not even make it out of committee in Sacramento. The Democrat supermajority up there just ruled it out. 99.9% of the people in California didn't even know this was going on because the mainstream media, these forces we're dealing with, didn't want it to be known. I'm convinced that if the majority of Californians knew that that guy was trying to get that bill passed, we would have been up in arms and fought to get that bill passed. This is the kind of stuff we're fighting. And Bedros, the crime issue, you know, you have this Proposition 47, which I'd be happy to talk about. It's not.
Before I go there, I want to elaborate on what you said. Actually, the children being indoctrinated is very important for our viewers to understand. 5 years old will be indoctrinated based on their laws right now, and parents don't have the consent, don't have the right to write the consent. So basically, they took the power from the parents, and the state owns it, which is actually called Hegelian dialectic in philosophical world, where the state, you were born for the state and not for your individual or family or for God. Wow. So basically, we're seeing all this taking place in our modern world. The issue is, when somebody used to talk to a 5 years old or 6 years old about sex, we used to call that pedophile.
Exactly.
Now, basically, pedophiles are allowed to teach our children and take them from us.
You know, it is sick what's going on.
Right.
These people who are doing this indoctrination, and they're moving into our schools, they're very, they're activists. They get together, they group together to do this stuff. They keep fighting to do it. They have no scruples, and they're sick. And some of this hypersexualized stuff that they're teaching to young elementary school kids, nobody back in the day would ever say that to a kid, would be allowed to say that to a kid.
They will be in prison.
Exactly. And
segregation.
Now they're in there. The stuff they're teaching is outrageous. So, you know, these are big issues for me. And, you know, I'm very open about my positions on everything from my support to President Trump to issues like this. This lawsuit I'm fighting up in Santa Barbara, so many of these maniacs running that school district up there right now, they can't stand me. But you just got to keep talking about it more and more. And I can tell you something, Bedros, when I speak around this district on this campaign, more and more people all over our district support the things that we're saying here. They come up to me and they thank me. You know, in this society that we're living in right now, thanks largely to the mainstream media and the Adam Schiffs of the world, so many people are sort of closeted. They can't say these things publicly. They're feared. They're afraid to be called a racist or this or that. They're afraid for their livelihood because of these crazies that we're up against on the other side. But when we all need to keep talking about it, we can't be shut down. These people can't tell us what to say. They can't tell us what to think. This is America. We believe in liberty. We're allowed to say what we want to say. We believe in freedom of speech. They're not going to shut us down. And I can tell you there's more and more people out there in the district that when they hear me speak and they hear people like you speak, they come up. They're all over the district. And this thought that this clown Adam Schiff thinks and the mainstream media thinks that he's just going to walk into office again, I think your viewers see, and I think you see right now, this guy Schiff hasn't run into anything like me in a long time,
well,
if at all.
I will explain one thing, and I'm very sure you will agree with it. Our community, the Armenian community, I know lots of people on my announcement, they will not be very happy. Our organizations have supported the Democrats based on them being more for the people, based on them being more supportive of the Armenian genocide, but they haven't in return explained one issue. We're talking about the genocide that took back in 1915. Every American politician with a sound mind like you would agree it happened and would fight for us. But the candidates they're supporting, which the agenda of Democrats, the mission of Democrats, the genocide is continuing. When a person is destroyed mentally, it's called a cultural genocide. When a person is homeless, that's continuation of a genocide. So, I mean, they have to understand, and our people have to understand, Democrats have changed so many colors. They used to be Ku Klux Klan. They used to be against the freedom of slavery. That's why the Civil War started, because they were against it. And Republicans who believed in God, who believed in individualism, who believed in freedom of liberty, were against it. Now, they're coming up and saying, we're the ones who did it, which is a lie. We need individuals like you who believes in liberty and justice to fight, and our people need to understand specifically that's the war we're against. If this continues, okay, let's say they acknowledge the genocide one day, but there are no more people left after Heritage.
Yeah, you know, listen, when I was young growing up, I was a Democrat.
Right.
I get it. But Democrats back then were different than these Democrats now, these socialist Democrats who are really socialist / communists. Then Ronald Reagan became president, and I became a Republican. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why yesterday, for example, I was incredibly honored to be endorsed by Ken Kachigian, who was the president's speechwriter. It was an incredible honor for me. I met with him with my deputy campaign manager, David Ter-Petrosian, down in San Clemente, and he was incredible. And but you know, Republicans, Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president.
Exactly.
He's the one who ended slavery. The slave owners were all the Democrats. The Ku Klux Klan, as you said, were the Democrats. So, you know, and you know, you brought up the genocide. You had 1.5 million souls that were butchered by the Turks. And we need to get to a point where the President of the United States signs a proclamation recognizing the Armenian genocide. Now, my opponent has dabbled with the genocide over the heads of the Armenian people his entire career. But when Obama was president and had control of both the House and the Senate, where was Adam Schiff getting Obama to sign that proclamation?
He even refused to talk about it.
Yeah, where was he?
Right.
Listen, we have a president now he's got the strength, he's got the wisdom, we need to talk to him about it. I can tell you if I get to Washington, I'm going to be talking to him about it all the time. He's got what it takes to sign that proclamation and tell the Turks, you know what, enough. I don't care where your property is located. I don't care about your strategic position. I don't care about your constant threats to America. You're going to do this and do that to us. If we recognize the genocide, we Americans are the greatest country that was ever created, and we're not going to be Turkey's bitch anymore.
Right. And that's a specific word. And you will fight for the Armenian genocide.
Hell yes.
Okay, so I want the viewers to understand it's not only Democrats that fight for it. People who believe in justice and liberty will fight for us. And I believe with the right people next to the president in the House, the genocide will be signed as a proclamation. I believe that. So let's go to the last part of it, Proposition 47 you wanted to talk about.
Well, you're talking about the crime that we're dealing with now,
right,
and the homelessness. Proposition 47 is one of the hugest causes of what we're now dealing with in terms of the homelessness and the rise in crime we're facing. This is a proposition that was sold to us by the Democrats of California. It was sold by Kamala Harris at the time and the last governor to us. It was called, when you went to the voting booth, Proposition 47's name was the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. So of course, you know, everybody wants safe neighborhoods and schools. What have we been talking about, you know, this entire time? What did that bill actually do? It reduced the sentences from felony to misdemeanor so that now a criminal, somebody can go into a store 5 times a day, 5 separate times, take up to $950 each time. As long as it's a separate crime each time. You cannot get more than a misdemeanor. Somebody can break the window in your car, steal the stuff out of the car, as long as the property damage, what they steal, is under $950,
right,
misdemeanor.
They go assessment.
This is what Proposition 47 did. Criminals all know about this stuff. The society doesn't, you know, law enforcement, like I said, I'm a huge supporter. They can't go after misdemeanors because misdemeanors only get a slap on the wrist anyhow.
Probation.
if somebody goes after them in the first place. I know somebody, for example, who owns a nail salon. She talks about how every day somebody runs in there, a customer gets their nails done, then goes, scoops up all of her supplies, all this stuff, runs out the door with it. It's under $950. She doesn't even bother calling law enforcement for it. This is Proposition 47. It also reduced from felony to misdemeanor a drug possession offense. So drug users now also used to get felonies, now misdemeanors. Back in the day, there was an incentive. If you didn't want to have a felony on your name, go to drug rehab. Now that incentive is gone. So these people are populating. They used to be in prisons. They're populating our homeless encampments. They're involved in the drugs and so much of the crime that's going on. We need to repeal that Proposition 47. It's a terrible thing. It was sold to us by fraud, really, by this Democrat regime.
Well, actually, I would explain more into it. Prop 47, we wouldn't need all this if the children at high schools were raised righteously, if they were given their religious freedom. And it was, instead of, we are going to see more of this crime with this indoctrination of our children, because that only confuses the person more.
Yes.
That only deprives the person's identity more. And you know, we will see rise of a crime by their hate against us, let's put it that way.
Yes.
So I think we'll come to end of our
all right.
time.
Well, let me just say this, Bedros. March 3rd is Election Day.
Of course.
I need all your viewers to vote for me. This vote is incredibly important. I need all your viewers' support. If you want to read more about me, go to www.ericearly.com.
It's on the screen right now.
ERICEARLY.com. But this vote is incredibly important. And I ask all of you wonderful people, if you haven't voted already, please vote for me in this primary election. We have to show this Mr. Schiff. That'll let me go ahead against him in the general election. We got to show this Mr. Schiff that we're not playing games anymore.
Well, District 28, let's not forget it.
Yes.
That's very important for Congress. We all should elect as family members, if we care for our children, if we care for our grandchildren, the future and their existence.
Future of our country, future
and
of our
if we
kids
care
and
of our families, we need to elect Eric Early on District 28. All of you that have a ballot, I will say this once. Anybody comes to your house, asks for you to give it to them, they will take it to the mail. Don't trust anybody.
Totally agree with that.
Right. The ballot is your power, is your voice. We need a revolution in this district. And the revolution is your vote. When you vote, the ballot is your voice and a revolution. We need to revive, to protect our kids, grandchildren, our families. We need to see fathers and mothers raising their children. Unfortunately, we don't want to believe all these mumbo jumbo, what they say to us, you know. So we need to continue, in order to continue our genetic race, let's put it this way, in order to see our children happy, we need to vote for an individual that stands for our families, not individuals that neglects the society, neglects the district, and basically doesn't care about what kind of laws are implemented on our children. It's time to start the revolution. This is the revolution. 2016, President Trump started a revolution. We need to follow his steps. We need to make America great again. And thanks to Eric Early, that as a lawyer, he's willing to dedicate his time, his energy, his mind to protect our future generations. March 3, March 3rd, this month, this coming month, few days, which is Tuesday, I believe.
Yes.
Eric Early for our vote. Thank you very much, sir.
Bedros, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Until next time.